Hey everybody, Misty here at Pushing Weight Fitness, and I wanted to go live real quick, or actually do this video for continuing the Keeping It Simple series. This is part 3, and today I'm going to talk about failure. And the reason why I chose failure is because I've been through quite a few of those myself, not just in the fitness world, but other endeavors. And I read Crumb earlier about it's okay to fail sometimes, but and that's true. But the key is to come back stronger, and that's the encouragement that I want to put out there today. Because recently I wouldn't consider it failing. I would consider it more. I think that I actually realized that I had part 2 of this series was overload. So I had to let some things go, and one of those things was kind of almost like one of my dreams, but I can get that next year. And, had some setbacks that, kind of also interfere in some other things. But at this point, it is okay to fail sometimes. The key is to realize it and to A, figure out how to prevent it in the future, and B, to realize if sometimes I just want you to stop and think for a minute. Is failure really like a bad thing? Or is failure more of a choice? Because in my situation, I say I failed, but it was more of a choice. Like, I chose not to, do the competition this year. I chose, not to be a doctor because I was supposed to have been a doctor by now. That was my goal. That was my dream. And, I had some life situations that kind of deferred me, but otherwise, I chose not to pursue that. When I say, sometimes I sit here and think, plus 40s that I've failed, at my career, really. And honestly, I think I chose like a different route, and it wasn't even intentional, but deep down in that brain of yours, sometimes you choose things that, you later get depressed about or anxious about because you feel you failed at something. But honestly, like, if you put the work in, day after day after day, you are choosing to be successful. If you kind of really don't, and you kind of back off, and you have good days and bad days, which is still normal, but that's where your failures come from, because you've chose not to push for it as hard as you have in you. And that's one of the things I think that I personally even get confused on is the difference in failing and making a choice not to endeavor that particular goal or dream or accomplishment. And so the key is that don't let the failure or the choice to not complete that mission distract you, because if it was in you to begin with, and you set your mind to it, when the time's right, it'll happen. And that is what I want to leave you with today, is that, failure is like a 50-50 thing. You have 50% chance of not completing the mission, or you have 50% chance of succeeding. It's the choice that determines that. So it depends on how bad you want something, because I know I've always been told that, I set my mind to something and I'm a go-getter and I don't stop until I get it. Well, that's because I've chose to have whatever it is that, I'm out for. So if you're not really, these goals and missions that you set for yourself, we always kind of set ourselves high, and we always critique ourselves the hardest, more than people out there. Yeah, they'll bash you, but, ultimately no one bashes you harder than you do yourself. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, today I just failed at today. I didn't get hardly anything done. Why? Think about that. The why. Why didn't you get anything done? What was preventing that? Did you just choose not to do certain items on that list, to be successful for that day and to feel successful? Because honestly, that's what it boils down to. If you think about it, really think about that. Things that you feel you failed at in the past. Sometimes, it is legit, but overall, I feel like 80% of my failures or shortcomings is because I chose to not complete that mission. I chose to take things in a different route. I chose to succeed at something else. It may have started there, but it ended up somewhere else. That particular item was considered a fail, but this one over here, the bigger one, the one that was more crucial to me, was a huge success. So that's where you have to do and weigh and balance out what your failures are versus the successes in that same time frame, because those things are important. And I'm telling you, if you don't get that right frame of mind for those failures and successes, you could easily end up, like I said, lack of motivation, lack of determination, lack of, just overall health and strength. And that's something that can be prevented, and it starts within yourself. So, homework for tonight. Think about your failures and your successes, and look at those failures, kind of critique them, and realize to yourself, did I actually legitimately fail on that, or did I choose not to complete that for whatever reason? Did I self-sabotage? I mean, there's all kinds of factors that go on with that. So I want you to keep it simple. Only set goals for yourself that you're 100% willing to obtain, and don't stop until you get them. You may have 10 goals right now that you want to do. Narrow that down a little. Complete 5. When you get there, then finish the other 5, because sometimes it goes back to the overload. You think of all these things you want to do, and you work at a little bit at each of them, but you're never solid in any particular one. That's okay in some instances, and if that's the way that you roll, that's great. But other words, just speaking in general, don't set yourself up for a failure, because if you don't plan right and you don't have it in your heart to do that particular item, you're not, and then you feel terrible because, like I said, my ultimate dream was to be, a doctor and do pro bono stuff over in Africa, and then, have a surgery practice here in the States. Never happened. I'm not saying it's still out of the mix, but, right now it's just not a priority. So, no, I didn't really fail there. Things happened and I didn't push hard enough. I didn't work toward that accomplishment. I succeeded in many, many others during that time frame. Many, many others that I'm proud of. But success and failure, big difference on that scale. Big difference. Assess that for you.